What's up, YouTube? It's the action figure grader, also known as John, and a viewer of my videos, there's very few of you, I know, but a viewer of my videos asked about, hey, action figure grader, I've got a mail-away figure that I would like to get graded by the Action Figure Authority. How do I do it? He mentioned that it was a mail-away version of the vintage Boba Fett. Which, congratulations to him, by the way. Those mail-away Boba Fetts go for several thousands of dollars if they've been graded in a high grade. So that is pretty awesome. But he mentioned that his mail-away figure has double tape and maybe some damage to the box, and he's worried about how to submit it to grading. Well, I didn't necessarily understand fully his question, but I think I got the gist of it, and so we're going to talk about that towards the end of this video. But generally speaking, I wanted to talk about mail-aways and how AFA handles those with regard to grading and what you can expect and how to fill out the forms. So towards the end of this video, I will show the forms very similar to the step-by-step tutorial that I posted yesterday. I'm going to do a condensed version of that, given that a lot of the general guidelines and how to fill out the general forms for AFA are covered in much more detail than you probably want in my other video. But as it relates specifically to mail-aways, I thought we'd talk about that. So first I'm going to talk about modern mail-aways versus the vintage mail-aways at the end. So the first one I got an example of, two examples really, of a mail-away figure. This is the 25th anniversary G.I. Joe Doc figure. This was released in 2008 as part of the 25th anniversary line, and it was a mail-away exclusive. And so you can see here on your left the box that would arrive in your mail with the G.I. Joe logo, and at the bottom here you'll see where it says G.I. Joe Doc. So that lets people know that that's the character. So this is the box that it would come in, just like that, and inside the box the figure would be wrapped in a standard clamshell, a G.I. Joe logoed clamshell. That clamshell was sealed with factory tape. So you can submit, I could have submitted this figure, and the one I submitted is the one here on the right. I actually took it out of the box. It was still in the clamshell. It was still, factory sealed with the tape. And so I just submitted the clamshell by itself. I didn't even bother submitting the box. But I submitted it, and it did receive the uncirculated grade, which I'll show you right now. And so this is the one I sent off. Where's the label? Here it is. So you can see here it says 2008 Hasbro G.I. Joe mail order exclusive G.I. Joe Doc number 2 on the flare gun, uncirculated 9.0. So that's the one I got back from AFA. As it mentioned on the label, it said a number 2 on the flare gun. There is also a number 1 on the flare gun, and because I am OCD, I had to buy this one. This one has the number 1 on the flare gun. It's also a 90. This was graded using the old style. This is not uncirculated, but this is just an old style 90 near mint plus card 90 blister 85 figure 95. So I wanted to have both the number 1 and the number 2 flare guns. That's really the only difference. For those that want to see it, you can see here towards the on the back of the gun. There's a little number 1 right there. The other version that I just showed you has the number 2 on it. I don't know what the difference is, but I knew that I had to have it because I'm a complete and total loser. So it's it's essentially the exact same figure though, other than that flare gun issue or flare gun change variant. But anyway, I submitted the clamshell still sealed and still factory sealed to AFA. I submitted it just as a standard modern grading scale figure. And I'm gonna refer back to some of the paperwork that I showed you in my other video, but from the toygrader.com website, you go to Submission Center and then click on Pricing and Tier Codes under Packaged Toy Grading Costs. You then look at the modern grading scale since this figure was made after 2000, and this is a standard size action figure, as you can see here. And I always do the cheapest. The max value is $200. This dock is maybe a $50 figure at best, ungraded. So it fits under that economy scale very nicely. And so that the tier price now is $25. It used to be $20. So that's what it would cost to grade this this dock figure now. So that's one type of mail away. Now, what happened? The only reason I got the uncirculated grade for my dock is because that tape was still factory sealed around the clamshell that held the carded figure inside. If I had submitted the figure but had taken it out of the clamshell or had decided to open it for some reason, AFA still would have graded it. They just would not have given it the uncirculated designation, which, for example, this one does not have the uncirculated designation. So that's how modern figures are handled by AFA. You can submit them either way; it doesn't matter. But if it's still carded, the figure is still carded on the blister, on the bubble, but it's in a factory sealed clamshell, then they'll give it the uncirculated grade. Now, the question you're probably asking is the same one I had. How do they know that that tape was factory sealed versus just a new piece of tape was put on? I don't know that. These graders must have a lot more expertise than I do. It seems like that would be pretty easy to fake, but they clearly know what to look for. They clearly can tell whether the clamshell has been opened or not. So for whatever reason, I decided, I submitted this thing a long time ago before I even understood uncirculated versus circulated. So I got kind of lucky with that one, to be honest with you, because I just never happened to take it out of the clamshell. So anyway, that's how modern figures are handled. I could have submitted it inside this box and just submitted it with the box. And I could have even got it graded with the box next to it and had the box inside the acrylic case that AFA uses. You have to pay a lot more for that, though. And pay custom sizing costs since the box is so large relative to the figure inside. So keep that in mind. To me, that seems like overkill. It's just a cardboard box that was made in 2008. It's not of value. There's a difference though between modern figures and vintage figures. And so for a vintage Star Wars figure that has the box, I wanted to show you this one. This box is worth some money. This thing came out in 1983. This is a Clipper Star Wars Dutch mailer box with Darth Vader. This came back as a U85. Now, I bought this one already graded on eBay, and I paid maybe $330 for it, which is ridiculous, but that's what I paid for it. But whoever got this graded originally, they submitted it to AFA, and they were able to get the uncirculated designation. Well, this goes back to my viewer's question about how do I submit a vintage Star Wars figure that is a mailer in a mailer box for grading. And so what he did was he submitted it, this Darth Vader, it's still wrapped in a poly bag, as you can tell, but that was located inside this mailer box. And so what he did was, whoever who owned this before and submitted it to AFA, they submitted just this box with the Vader inside, still factory sealed, and then let them know, hey, I want you to open this and grade this loose. Grade this loose so the Vader is showing. I've even seen these, as I mentioned in another video, I've seen it where people have just kept it in the box and just got this graded, and all you see is this box, which to me is kind of silly. I mean, I don't know why you'd want to look at a white box that says Star Wars Darth Vader. It just seems like a very, very boring piece to have in your collection. So I think this guy did it right, though. He pulled the Vader out, and he had it, AFA very professionally mount both of these side by side and had them graded in the same case. Now, he was able to get the uncirculated designation because whatever tape was holding, there's the tape right there, whatever tape was holding that on was still factory sealed. You can see the yellowing over time. This is a 30 or 40-year-old figure now, and that tape is going to yellow over time. But as long as that tape is still factory sealed to the box and has not been removed or not been opened, then they'll give it the uncirculated designation. AFA will take your order. They will take this out of the box that you send them. They will open the figure up, and then they will mount these two together and give you the uncirculated grade. And so when they're grading mail-away figures, they grade it with the box condition, which is this, the wrapper condition, the W, that they actually do grade how good a condition the wrapper is that holds the figure in. So for example, this is made in Macau. If that made in Macau logo was kind of faded, or part of the words could not be read very well, then they would have given a lesser grade to that W. But as it was, it came back as near mint, because as you can tell, the made in Macau is very, very bright, and there's no kind of scratches or holes in the bag. And then the figure itself got an 85. So that's how they grade uncirculated mail-away figures. They will grade the condition of this box, the condition of the wrapper that holds the figure, and then the figure itself. So keep that in mind. Now, let's say that whoever owned this before had decided to open this box and take a look at the Darth Vader for whatever reason, and then want to get it graded. Well, they still could have submitted it to AFA. They could have submitted it under the qualified designation or just as a loose figure designation, a bagged figure. And you could have put in under the special instructions section of the AFA forms, which you'll find in my other video. You could have put, hey, I want to grade this loose. I don't want to grade the box. I just want to grade the figure inside the wrapper. They're still going to grade the condition of the baggie. Of the baggie and of the figure, but there will not be a box grading for it. So, but you could still get it mounted next to it if you had the box. It just would not be considered part of the grading of the actual what's on the actual sticker. So you can submit them either way. Now let's go to my viewer's question. He mentioned that he has a mail-away Boba Fett in the box that has been double taped. Well, I'm assuming what he means by that is that maybe either the original factory tape has come loose and somebody put another piece of tape on it, or if that's the case, then AFA will not grade this as uncirculated. They will grade it my second example, where they'll grade the baggie and they'll grade the figure. They will not grade the box because the box has been open. It could qualify for a qualified grading scale. That's another a category that AFA offers. You can say, hey, I want to put this under qualified, and instead of a U, you'll have a Q next to the grade, in which case they may still factor in the score for the box, the wrapper, and the figure, just as you see here, but instead of the U, it'll be a Q. What I would recommend to him, if he's got a mail-away Boba Fett, which is a very, very expensive figure, a high-grade mail-away Boba Fett that has a really nice condition box. Those Boba Fetts also came with a advertising booklet. Most of them did, along with the bagged figure. I would get all those mounted together. I've seen examples of those for sale on eBay. But that's an very early version of Boba Fett and goes for a lot of money. A high-grade version of that can go anywhere from $2,500 to $3,000 or more, depending on the condition. So he's got himself a real treasure on his hands. And whether he grades it as qualified or uncirculated, if the tape is still factory sealed, or if it's been opened, it doesn't matter. That's an awesome figure. I would send it in either way. And so, to be more exact about how to fill out the forms for that, I did pull up the same forms as we talked about, the pricing and tier codes. Again, toygrader.com, click on Submission Center, and then go to Pricing and Tier Codes. And so this is not a modern figure, so we're going to skip that page. This is also not a standard sealed figure, so we're going to skip that page. But later on, in all the different options, there is a separate section called AFA Standard Grading Scale, which is for vintage figures, mailers. And so this is the section that would qualify for his figure. So let's take a look at it. A mailer with bagged action figures, so no box, would cost you about $60, and that's the tier code that you would want to enter in the AFA submission form. There's about a 5-week turnaround. Now let's say it's a mailer with bagged action figure plus one additional item. In this case, the one additional item would be the box, if it's still factory sealed. Or with the case of the Boba Fett that I just talked about, he came with a catalog or advertising insert that was packed in with him. So that could be the one additional item. That's also a 5-week turnaround. It's got a slightly different tier code that you got to enter in, but the cost is more. It's $90 instead of $60. Now let's say he's got a factory sealed box that has the Boba Fett. We know that it has the advertising insert as well, along with a figure. It would probably qualify under the mailer with bagged action figure plus 2 additional items. The 2 additional items being the box and the advertising insert. If you wanted to get all of those graded, you would use that tier code. And there's a 5-week turnaround again, but the cost again goes up to $125. So one of these three would be sufficient for that bagged Boba Fett. If he just wanted to get the bagged figure, he didn't care about the box, he'd use the very first one. If he wanted to get the box and the figure graded, it'd probably be the second one. And if he wanted to get the box, the advertising insert, and the figure graded, he'd use the third one. So those are the three different options you have for that. Again, if the box has been opened, you can still have them case it inside it and just not grade it as uncirculated. It would just be graded as either qualified, or you would just be grading it as a bagged figure, which is what this would be. Me, if I had a Boba Fett mail away that had a damaged box, I would probably get this one, the mailer with bagged action figure plus the one additional item, with the one additional item being the advertising insert. I would still have them mount the original box that it came in. Your cost would be $90, and depending on what kind of grade you got back for it, you have yourself an absolute holy grail in terms of action figures. The mail-away Boba Fett's, as I covered in my Boba Fett variant video, are very, very expensive and very, very popular because they are the very earliest version, other than prototypes and, you know, your rocket-firing Boba Fett, which is like a unicorn out there. Unicorn giggles and sunshine smiles. It's a unicorn. But for the mail-away figures, Boba Fett figures are less. They're not rare, but they are very, very valuable because they are the earliest commercial versions of Boba Fett that were available before he became a carded figure on the Star Wars card, on the ESB card, and on the Return of the Jedi and Droids cards. So congratulations to him. No matter which way you go with that grading, you got yourself an absolute home run. I hope this is helpful to him and to any other folks that have mail-away figures, but don't hesitate to send me any more questions in the comments below. Also, please don't forget to like and subscribe. I need some subscribers. Thanks a lot, guys. Talk to you soon.